someone who sent me a message and he was like, can you stop using equal signs for your stat screens? Because it was like equals 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 name Len equals 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 equals. And he was like, this is driving me absolutely nuts. And I'm like, I'm just addicted to books. Now, I think it's like, it's been like 12 years or something of writing now. And I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm an author. I like the first time I went to a con, I was supposed to be pitching like my stuff and everything. Instead, I was selling everyone else's books. And James Hunter like took me to the side. He was like, here is how you're going to pitch your book.
So I'm going to get you to first start with just like a little introduction about who you are and maybe talk about your books. You have a lot of them, so you can focus on a couple if you'd like, but really I just want to hear about you, your books, and sort of what they're about.
Well, thanks for having me, JJ. So my name is Michael Chatfield. I write a whole bunch of stuff. I got sci-fi, fantasy, and I got LitRPG, of course, which is the main reason that we're here today. So on LitRPG, I've got Emerelia, which I think was the first, I am told by others, it was the first finished English LitRPG series. And then we have 10 Realms, of course, that's really well known. And then I'm now doing Restarting the Apocalypse. And then I have like a Builder's Legacy series, which is like sci-fi LitRPG, which I love sci-fi LitRPG. It just gets a little bit less love. But yeah, I've written a bunch of books. I don't keep count of it because I'm bad with numbers, which doesn't make sense because I write LitRPG and there's so many freaking stat sheets. But yeah.
That's fantastic. Do you sort of have one that's sort of your baby, or the one that you sort of like push in front of people the most?
Okay, my thinking when talking to people of like, hey, do you want to read something is I want you to have like the best reading experience. Yeah. So like if you can go, hey, I had a great weekend and I read this series and it worked really well, I'd rather that than like pushing my stuff as much. So like I do get caught up in that a bit. I like the first time I went to a con, I was supposed to be pitching like my stuff and everything. Instead, I was selling everyone else's books. And James Hunter like took me to the side. He was like, here is how you're going to pitch your book. And I was like, oh, okay, like that sounds a lot easier. And I started doing that and started like selling my stuff as well. But like I think mine is just if I can get you a series that you enjoy and you just have a ton of fun, that's the win.
Yeah. Okay, so what's that one? So I want to make sure that you sell your own book. What is that one that you're going to be like, I want you all to have the best weekend possible. You should probably go and try out this one first.
Well, if you're looking for party-based stuff, Emerelia is really good. If you're looking for regression and like regression preparedness, city building, crafting, then that's the Restarting the Apocalypse. And if you're looking for two military guys dumped into a fantasy world, that's 10 Realms.
Yeah. And so do you mind actually talking about your background a little bit? So I think you were in the Army, if I saw that correctly. So is that sort of like where you come from?
Yeah, like so born in the UK, raised in Canada, went back and forth. Is why I have a kind of a funky accent, which also people hear a lot more in cons because like my voice goes. So sure. Using a Canadian accent is like it hurts. And also drinking. But I like, yeah, so I was in the Army for a number of years. I was infantry and that kind of stuff. So that definitely, there was a decision which was, hey, do we want to sign up for more of the suck or do we want to go and try something else? So I tried a whole bunch of other things. One of them was I just gave a shot at writing and I was like, this is pretty awesome. And then I just kept on writing because people kept on reading my books. Mm-hmm. And it has now, I think it's like, it's been like 12 years or something of writing now. And I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm an author, which still feels weird. So to other authors out there who are like, hey, I'm not sure if I'm an author. If you write consistently, and that means like you set a schedule and you just keep on writing, you are a writer. And if you published, you are an author. Yeah. I think that is the only delineations you can have. So there you go. That makes that a lot easier. Stop having that imposter syndrome. I say that, it's never going to stop. So yeah. Welcome to the suck.
You went from one suck to the other suck.
Yeah. It's just a different. It's like my body is broken and my spirit is in disrepair. But like I somehow have morale because I'm around a bunch of idiots. Yeah. To I'm writing a bunch of idiots. And I don't think that it's good, but people are saying that it's good. And then I'm like, no, it's terrible. But they're like, no, I actually kind of like it. And you're like, this is a weird dichotomy that we've got going on here for sure.
Well, do you find, so like you said, 12 years is wild, first off, but do you find that things have changed dramatically? So one, obviously you've started as sort of just like one guy writing his own, and you sort of have what I believe is sort of like a team now. So maybe we'll talk on that. But also, do you feel as though like the landscape of LitRPG has changed quite a bit from, again, back then to now as well?
Yeah, like so when I started, superheroes were really big metahumans kind of thing. And then it became fantasy started to really rise because remember, Game of Thrones surged everything fantasy, right? So that has changed the genres of the reading experience quite a bit. Also, like my experience is very different to what a new author publishing today is going to be like. Sorry, I'm just smacking my microphone here. So when I started, I was like, okay, I was like, I'm not going to make a traditional authored book. I didn't even think about going the traditional route. What I did was I was like, I'm just going to publish it on Kindle because that's where I'm reading my books from. I was reading so much sci-fi and meta human stuff. And I published on there and people read it. And I was like, this is awesome. And I continue doing that. You can do that to some degree nowadays, but it is much, much harder.
Yeah.
And I think that you like things like Royal Road, where you launch on Royal Road first, you kind of get a feeling, you get your feet as an author, which I think is a much harder place and a much more stringent place because you're in a place of criticism right off the bat.
Yeah.
And you've got to progress through that, understand your voice, not let it get corrupted by others, and then you move on to monetizing it so that you can do that in a more permanent basis. Yeah, I had a much easier time because I was allowed to go to Amazon and started there. And then afterwards, I ventured into Royal Road and Patreon and that kind of thing. Like Patreon wasn't a thing back then, which was kind of crazy to me. But now it is. But I think as the genre has gone on, we've gone from like social media has actually changed, I think, the genre in a big way. We used to be very community focused, like the Facebook groups and all that, which are still in existence, it's changed. And that's no part of the reader or the writer. It is mostly because those systems themselves have turned from, hey, community focused to interest based focus. So it's like, hey, what do you look at? What is getting your eyeballs on the screen? And it tracks that as much as possible. And writing is a long form content. I was going for a walk yesterday and I was like walking down and I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I was like, I could watch a movie or I could watch TV. And I'm like, I'm just addicted to books. Like, there's something about reading to me that like, I like it just a bit more than the other mediums.
Yeah.
But it's a toss up because you have so many things vying for attention.
Yeah.
Sitting with a book, it has to be like, if you look at a lit RPG book, Builder's Legacy series, what I had in that was the first book, the outline was for 3 books.
Sure.
And then I was like, okay, I had learned that with writing lit RPG, how to slim that down. So you can get so much more content over faster to really engage your reader. Because your reader's going like, oh man, like this is happening, then this is happening, this is happening. Yeah. And then I've talked to, I've done this myself and I've talked to others. You go and read a fantasy book and you're like,
speed up a little bit.
Yet? Like you got some speed here. And in a lit RPG book, you're like, okay, in the first chapter, you're like usually getting like, okay, we get some juiciness here. And then the first like maybe 5-10 chapters, the system somewhat. It's going to develop as it goes, but you are like, I'm in this world. And then from there, it's like chaos, right? Sure. It's a much faster storytelling technique than you can find in other places. And I think that's because we have system prompts. We can just like, hey, do I want to explain magic for like 17 chapters? Or can I just be like, it's an ability. You put in mana. Out comes water spell.
Yeah.
Wins. So that has changed genre. It's changed how that works. And I think that you can see it as a kind of a convention of writing of like, you can have any genre and you can gamify it. And if you gamify it, you're stepping into that lit RPG game lit region, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like it has definitely changed a lot. Like we've changed like tropes. Like we used to be heavy into VR stuff. Then it was like, okay, let's go for isekai. Then it was now let's do, it's no longer, like the world has been changed. We have apocalypse happening, that kind of stuff. And like that's ever changing. Like I think with like you look at Matt Dinneman's Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and you go, okay, this is an anarchist like arena, like episodic, right? Because every single book is its entire world, and with its own rules. But there's an overarching problem. There's the trying to get away from society, and like it's just like it's a blast because you can throw all of these things into your like book and it doesn't conflict, which is kind of strange looking at other genres.
Yeah. And so you actually, Matt, you've been to a lot of cons and stuff. Do you find that on that same trend and conversation, do you find that things have become easier to sort of explain to people because his series is sort of blown up in the last year? Do you find that it's easier in general just because the books are more popular nowadays? Or do you find that it's still difficult to explain to people like what we do, what the genre is?
I think it's always like there's a lot of middle grounds, right? Sure. And when we're having a conversation with people about the genre, like we get super excited, first of all, right? Because we're like, hey, like we were reading this before we were writing this, and now we get to play in the sand as it was, right? I think it's become easier because there are a lot more people that find Dungeon Crawler Carl accessible. And that is a thing that Matt does very well, is he makes his stories accessible. I think it's you have like your three ranges, right? You have your very cold audience who like they've never heard of it, but you go, hey, have you heard of fantasy? And they're like, yeah. And like, have you heard of Lord of the Rings? They're like, yeah. And you're like, when, and this is like the most basic answer, like the simplest way, and feel free to steal this because I've stolen it from someone else. So
I might have stolen it because I think I said the same thing yesterday. So I'm wondering what you're about to say because I might have said the exact same thing. I want it to be the same. Please go.
Hey, well, if it has to deal with Gandalf, we're probably going down the same way. Where it's like you go with Gandalf the Gray, and then you go to Gandalf the White, and then you're like, oh, they changed his clothing colors because then you're like, oh, like here we go. He's in a different thing. He's more powerful. And in LitRPG, you just go +1 to mana, and then you're like, oh, dude, so much stronger now. Like that's awesome. It's like seeing the Dungeons and Dragons stat sheet behind it. So you got like, I usually do the Gandalf explanation. If it's like they're a gamer, then I'll do the Dungeons and Dragons explanation. And then if they're into LitRPG already, then you're just nerding out, having a good time. But like, I think it's also like it can seem daunting having those stats and stuff. Like people are like, oh, I don't want stats in my story. It's like, it just depends how it's relayed to you, right? So I will say, it's kind of funny because so much of it is done in audio. There's like a way you can turn books into audio before you have it like go to actually come out of Audible. It's like for people who have like sight issues. And so there was someone who sent me a message, and he was like, "Can you stop using equal signs for your stat screens?" Because it was like == name Len == and he was like, "This is driving me absolutely nuts." So that is one way that stats like are harder, and I think that like definitely in audio realm it's a little bit trickier. But I think we've seen stats really come down in like huge stat sheets to like, hey, I'm just going to micro explain this and get it across, because we're learning the new language, and audiences like they're telling us. And then I think as a writer, you're going like, hey, like I don't want to write this massive stat sheet, and then you miss one point somewhere, and then you're like, oh no. Like you got to go find where that stat point came from.
Or someone's going to call you out for sure, and they're going to say you're not a good author. You're only a writer or something like that because you missed that 1+1 2 chapters ago.
Yeah, you're like, I'm an author, man. I'm not a statistician. Like I don't do the numbers, man.
Yeah. Oh, no, and you're absolutely right. There's this whole camp that wants the stats to only be their own chapter, and it's been driven based off of audiobooks, right? Like you look at the fact that ebooks, which used to be, I would think, the more popular lens and landscape for lit RPGs, have now sort of taken over. Audiobooks have taken over completely. You think about people who listen to 60 hours of audiobooks every single week while they're driving and stuff like that, and really it changes how you have to think about how you write it as an author. And I like how you said you slim it down to a lot. You slim it down such that you're only focusing in on whether it's the changes from like +1, +2, or whether it's like showing only the stats or abilities that they've gained that particular chapter. You focus in on the things that are the most important and sort of put the rest away to make sure that it's a better reading experience for the person.
Yeah, like you're not going for really hard names anymore. You
Yeah.
know, if you go for Razkaban the Third,
Yeah.
your narrator will come and murder you in your sleep. He's
Yeah.
like, I have to say this so many times, and there is 6 different pronunciations for this. Dude.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it's gonna be fun. I should stop doing that.
Yeah.
But like I think that you raised such a good point of like audio has become such a massive part. Like when you're writing now, do you think of the audiobook as you're writing?
So I think I do have to a little bit more. I didn't used to at all, but I think I have to more now. So since my first series and my second series, I worked with a couple narrators, Andrea Parsnow, who's fantastic, and Tess Irondale. So Andrea's obviously like top of the top, and Tess Irondale's fantastic as well. And the notes that they've given me based off of the things that I've gone through has been really invaluable in getting me to think about, oh, okay, I have to actually think about where this person is from a lot more, because where they're actually talking or where what they're doing might have an impact on how it's actually performed. It's no longer just like a straighten out, read the story and like just get through it. It's, hey, they want to have a New York accent, or they want to have a Ukrainian accent or a Canadian accent. Like this actually has bearing on the story where we didn't have to use it. I didn't have to use to think about that. So absolutely, yeah. Do you find that, is that one of the things that you enjoy doing? So there's obviously in your world, because you've been doing this for such a long time, there's so many different things that you have to do as an author. And getting back to that sort of team lens, are there certain things that you like to do the most, whether that's working with narrators, aside from the writing? Maybe you'll like the writing a little bit, but maybe like,
come on, man. I wanted the cop out answer. I was just
yeah,
exactly. I like writing books because that's the thing I do.
I was gonna make it too easy, but no. Aside from the writing, like, do you enjoy the cover art? Do you enjoy working with narrators? Do you enjoy cons? Do you enjoy any marketing aspects, making TikToks? Like, is there other things that you like about this job at the end of the day that really like make you want to sit down in your seat and work on it? Yeah.
Yeah, like there's, I think, like the as an indie author, you have to wear a lot of hats. Like when I started off, I had all the hats, right? And then as it's gone, I've hired on people, and I get to work with some really great people. And like, I think, like when you get a narrator, seeing them as a team member is essential because, like I. Every narrator I've worked with, I think I've had to, like, we've had a series that's going on. And so we've worked together for at least a year, maybe 2, right? So you're going to be talking to this person, you know, like every other month and like going through stuff. And you are giving them like over like a huge portion of control, but you're also being like, you're trusting them in a huge way. You talked about 2 great narrators there, and both of them really take the time to understand your book and to give you notes on your characters. It shows they're connected to your story. They want to make sure that they're giving you the richest experience, that the audience is getting the richest experience. We've been actually really blessed with great audiobook narrators who care about the genre and work tirelessly to present it as best as possible. But yeah, like I have team members. Like the thing that I try to get away from is like data input stuff.
Sure.
So like, okay, I'll go get I'll talk to the cover artist because I want to make sure that like what's in my head actually comes out. And then I'll also talk to like the narrators or anyone who's like adjacent to the book, like the editors, all of that. That's me. And then I'll give it over to my team and they're like, okay, cool. Like they take all the components wrap it together and be like, okay, we're going to make the posting for Kindle. We're going to come up with ideas of how to market this, and then like come back to me, because then they're like, hey, we're saying this, what do you think? And I'll go through and I'll make sure that it's, all in like my voice and that kind of stuff. Because it's like my focus and my thing that I give to readers is the book, right? That is the thing that I can put most amount of energy into. And like, I'm not the greatest at figuring out social media stuff. So my trade-off is, okay, I can do social media for 5 hours and be absolutely done, or I can write for 5 hours and then I can edit that little thing that's handed over to me for like an hour or a half hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a great strength of having that team. And like, you want to have people on your team that have strengths that you don't have. Someone really called it like, it's, you start off with like a square, right? And then you try to fill the spaces inside the square. So it becomes like more and more like a star.
Sure.
But essentially, you're actually trying to become a circle. You may never get to become a full circle. But if you just keep on filling that, it just kind of like, it pinches it in, and like you deal with all of those problem issues. I think a lot of indie authors take on too much. There is definitely help out there to claim back your time. And it's also to give people the best experience possible, right? Like, I can't answer all the emails all the time. But I have someone who I trust implicitly who can go, okay, I can get that, check that. I know, like, if it's like, hey, we've got book orders. Hey, we're printing bookmarks. Hey, we've got like, shirts coming in. We got to make sure that they go to the right place. That doesn't need me. If it's like, hey, this character has a core flaw that you need to address, I'm like, that's me. I'm gonna be right there. That's gonna be my thing. And they're also like, I don't want to deal with this because this is not at all like something I'm happy to do. So yeah, like building out a team is great. It allows you to do a heck of a lot more and reach a heck of a lot more people. Because at the end of the day, that is, I think, the biggest challenge that authors have after writing the book is to get it in front of the audience. And it's, there are people out there who really, really want to read your story. And I think sometimes people are like, I'll just put it all on my own shoulders. But you are denying that person reading your book because you're trying to control too many things.
Sure.
And just control what you can control. And the rest of it, get people to like stopgap that and help that up there. And yeah, like it does, like it can suck hiring people, but it also can be amazing hiring people because you can work with a team that really cares about what you're doing, and you get to see their quality adding to your own, and it's kind of awesome when you have that happen.
Yeah, sadly, I feel as though, and I know you are talking to me, but I think you're talking to my soul and all the things that I try to do that I shouldn't be doing. But that's a whole other conversation. So I didn't let you cop out on the writing side, and I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about some like hidden gems in a moment as well. But I want to get you one last opportunity to talk about like writing. So you obviously enjoy writing. You've written a lot of books. What is sort of your process to sort of like write a book? Do you have a process? What makes you want to choose to do fantasy versus sci-fi? Like what inspires you to sort of go down a certain path? So yeah, maybe talk about that a little bit.
So my process has changed quite a bit, and I think that that's also because the market has changed quite a bit. Our readers have changed, and our marketplace has changed in different ways. So to me, a story is something that is relayed to someone else, right? That's the core of it. It's I'm taking experiences and interesting, cool things, and I'm sharing them with you, right? It's kind of crazy too, of like you're making people hallucinate with ink. That's a fun byproduct, I guess. But like, I think if like what I do now is I go, okay, I really want to do these things in a story. And I go, that'd be really cool. Like, how am I going to do that? And they go, okay, that's really cool idea. Who wants to read that? okay, let's make sure that I am figuring out who wants to read that. Okay, cool. You guys, I think you'd really enjoy this. There's something that's not, serving them in the marketplace. Like Restarting the Apocalypse is a great example. It's regression in before the apocalypse, right? So mana systems, all of this. And I was like, okay, cool. What do I want to throw in there? And knowing me, it's a whole bunch of stuff because I'm like, that's cool, and that's cool, and that's cool. Because you get to start a series every so often. So you want to like collect the cool things because you're like, I can use these gems because as an author, you find them as so much fun to explore and you get to share that. Cause like if you're excited about it and you have to make sure like writing a story that fits an audience is great, but if you don't care about the thing you're writing about, it will show. Like, just like have fun. Like, be like, I want to serve this audience because this series, like, they'll love this, right? But you have to kind of like do that back and forth, and like it's a lot of like talking to your audience, and knowing yourself. So once you have defined kind of your core ideas and then your audience, I kind of go, all right, what's a scene in this book of the characters? And I'll just get us like, I'll just be thinking, I'm like, okay, well, my characters are like this and like this. And then I go, okay, what's the extreme version of that? So like there's a scene playing in my head that of like, that's supposed to be going into this book that I'm writing. It will not because it has to be much later. But it's like, you go like, okay, the character is wild. There's this situation. Okay, how can I like amp that up a bit more and like play with that? And that scene plays out in my head because I'm like, okay, these two characters are buddies. And so both of them are dealing with one another's crazy asses, like doing some dumbass stuff. And they're like in a situation where everyone else is like, why are you doing this? And they're like, because of this. And then everyone's like, it doesn't seem logical. And they're like, just leave us to do our own things. And then everyone's just like peacefully going along and they're like, this is weird, right? And everyone else agrees and like, yeah, it's weird. I'm like, I'm not going to tell them though. Like, it looks like they're having fun. But like I take that scene, I'm like, okay, that's a fun scene. That's juicy. I really want to get to that. And I'll write towards that scene. And like, I'm a pantser. So I'll like be like, okay, where is a point where we can start the conflict and like kind of, this was the old world, here's the new world, and then off we roll. Starting point, run towards that scene. Sometimes I get to that scene. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes that scene, elements of it get pulled apart and pushed throughout the story. But what it does is that scene tells me who the characters are. Those characters become the very center of that book. And the reason they're like the third thing that happens is because once those characters are made, it is so hard for me to like alter them. Like, and I really can't alter them because they are like, okay, they're canon. Because the world then like the world is there, everything's there, and then I throw them into it and we see what happens. Because I think with LitRPG, a lot of the times the world bends to the characters instead of the characters bending the world to them. And that can be, to me, that's so much more fun. Like other stuff like in Amarillia, I had it where like the character didn't use his stat points, and that was because I didn't know in Oblivion you had to sleep to use your stat points. So I like had basically done like 80% of the entire game, also without fast travel, because I didn't know that was a thing until the tooltip came up. Sure. And I'm like in like the last, like, it was like 2 hours that it took me to finish the rest of the game because I'm not running everywhere and I'm not like, base level 0 with like, But you can take those parts and go, okay, like this is just the fun of playing video games of like, it's you against the system and you're just trying to beat the system and also progress at the same time. So yeah, like, that's a whole bunch of writing things. So I hope that helps. But
no, honestly, that's great. Honestly, someone's gonna hear this. Hopefully, someone's gonna hear this, and honestly, like really take something from that because there's a lot of like cool stuff there. Again, I was gonna go to the hidden gems, but like something keeps in my mind that I need to also ask. So on the other side of it is because we've talked about a lot of like happiness and a lot of like good stuff and a lot of the like good aspects of writing. Can you talk about the criticism side of it? So obviously, I don't know, and maybe I'll ask a quick question first. Did Restarting the Apocalypse start on Roll Road by any chance? or was that one? Have you started any stories on Roll Road?
I started 10 Realms and Restarting the Apocalypse on Royal Road. I'm bad with Royal Road because what happens is I'm a bit of a nightmare to start series.
Sure.
So I'll write it, then I'll like, don't like that. I need to rewrite that. Don't like that. Rewrite it. Which makes me just a pain in the butt for Royal Road.
I'm the exact same, and honestly, so I've done a couple of these. A couple of the other authors I've talked with are the exact same way. It's not conducive to that format when you are going to go back and change chapter 1, or chapter 1 becomes chapter 3. Like it's not conducive, and it's not a good experience for the Royal Road reader as well. So I totally get that. But just on criticism then, so even without Royal Road, how do you find, because you've had thousands and thousands of people reading your books and reading your stories and really taking in these things that you've sort of like thought up in your head, and you've gone through that whole matrix of how you thought up these things, how do you find the criticism, and do you take the criticism anymore? Or are you at the point where you sort of push that away and no longer let it actually not affect you, but let it drive your decision making?
So criticism is an interesting thing. When you start out, it can be very, very detrimental, right? Because there's two, like, I think criticism is kind of the way that you temper yourself as a creative, because you can get so many highs as a creative, and you can also get so many lows as a creative. Interesting stat is you need one negative thing for every 5 positive things, right? So if you go, I have 100 reviews, you need like you need, you know,
20?
but like if you have 20, you're like, oh, I'm bad. If you have 21, you can't get, like your brain will just like stop going for it. So actually, this is a kind of an army thing, and it helps serve me really well, and I think that it can help other people. Is we have what's called after action reviews, right? So every time you do something, you go, okay, let's do an AAR, and we'll just check in and see. Everyone talks, at least in the Canadian Army, everyone talks, and you just go through the ranks and say, what was the biggest problem you saw? What was good and what was bad? And then you go, what was good and what was bad? And you work your way through until like, and then you run it again, and then you run it again, run it again, run it again. I use criticism as feedback. So you have to, you like, detaching yourself from it emotionally is huge, because it's hard, because it's a criticism on your craft. It's not a criticism on you. And you have to go, all right, based on this, I'm feeling like, and if you say I'm feeling, take that part away. What are they saying? What is useful facts you can get out of this to change and become better? And then the question is, do I want to? Right. So if someone says, like, one big one was in the 10 Realms, we had a massive cast of characters, and people were like, oh man, I wish it was less cast of characters. I was like, okay, that makes sense. I can see what they're saying and see why they're saying it. Okay, I will reduce the cast of characters to a few, but I'm not going to just make it first person, singular, just one person, right? So I'm like, okay, I've taken that piece of advice, I've utilized it, but like I'm not changing my entire style to do that. And that can be really hard, because you take that criticism and that you change everything. That's not good, because you have to have your own voice, right? And people can yell really loud, and you listen to the ones who are yelling really loudly. That may be one person yelling really loudly where you have 100 supporters liking it very quietly. Right. And that, like, looking at your sales to reviews, you can see that, I think the stat is like something like you have, the average is like 1 in 10 people actually review or rate your book, and it can be much lower. So if you have that, you go, all right, I'm not getting the rest of the people talking, so they're enjoying it, right? But you don't get that. It writing for other people is kind of our goal, and we talked about that before. It's really hard when those people, like, you feel distant from them, or you start putting unrealistic expectations on yourself. You can really only change 2 to 3 things between books, right? If you do more than that, like I've done it where I read too much information between one book to another, and I was like, oh, I'm leveling up my craft. There was like 17 things I had to do now. And by doing all those 17 things, my writing speed just dropped. And then I was like, oh no, I want to write this amazing book, blah, 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 blah. But like my speed has dropped so much. So you have to have like a medium, right? I kind of go with the thing that I may not be the best writer, but I will keep writing and I will keep learning and I will keep progressing. Um, and if you have a long-term mindset, that really does help. There, like I've been doing this for 10, 12 years. There's few people who have made it that long. But if you're writing, like there seems to be like points. If you're just writing to do it for fun, like I was talking to Dakota Crowd actually, and we were just like we're talking about books, and we were having a beer, and he's like, man, I want to write until like I can't, right? Like that is the goal, right? So if you go sitting here being content writing every single day and having fun with that, that's the win. The criticism will come and it will go, it will wax and it will wane, like again, Matt, great example, right? Matt's worked very, very hard at his craft. He writes in a way that I would not. I've talked to him before about the way he writes, but he has worked so hard at many crafts, and you see him doing extremely well with his series right now, and like it's awesome to see. And it's also like, people give him criticism and crap all the time, and like I bet it sucks, but at the same time he's built up a callus for getting that criticism and separating what is useful, what is not, and what are my non-negotiables. Because you as a writer, like you are serving a reader, but you are the first reader, right? So you be kind to yourself. And that doesn't mean like, everyone gets energy in different ways. Sometimes you're like, hey, I'm angry, I'm going to go write this. That's fine. If you're like, I'm sad and I'm going to go write that, that's fine. Like those emotions are things that we inject into books. Those are emotions that we utilize. There's no bad way to do this, unless it's harmful, right? If you're coming out of it and you're like, I hate this, I don't like this anymore, that's just not good, right? Like the goal should be to do this for a long time, not to like burn yourself out and just like use yourself as engine for the fire, right? So anyway, super long rant, but have fun. Criticism sucks, but take your time, right? Go through it, remove the emotion, strip it away, and like look at it for what it is. Hell, just if you hate all the negative ones, just copy the page off of Amazon, throw it into like an AI somewhere, and just be like, hey, what are the criticisms? And then it will tell you the criticisms. But because it's gone through a filter, it'll be like, here is. And then you go like, okay, cool. Now go and read one book on how to fix just like 2 or 3 of those things. That's it. Don't overload yourself. We're trying to do so much in so little time, and it screws you.
Yeah, no, that's great, honestly. And one, great answer. Really appreciate it. 2, as you talk, I could tell you're Canadian because I think there's a lot of Canadian isms that I can sort of tell because, again, after talking with a couple of people, I'm like, wow, I can really hear certain things that I'm like, I say that. That's fantastic. Okay, sorry. So I want to make sure, again, looking at our time, 3 hidden gems, if possible, that you can sort of call out. Like we were talking prior to sort of having the recorded conversation, I sort of want to get a sense of like your reading styles, but also I also enjoy calling out hidden stories or stories that don't get enough love. And I would love if you were to do the same. So yeah, so do you have 3 that you can sort of call out that are top of mind or that you've thought of?
I actually just read Reincarnation of the Death God by Unvex. That was really good. It was very clean writing. Interesting storyline. Just something we've seen before, but I'm like that'll be a fun story to read. Like finished that one, liked it. I'm reading Excarnations, reincarnated as a demonic tree, and I am finding it incredibly addicting. I was supposed to write this morning. I did not. So there that one there too.
Oh, you're the second to call that one out, so I think that one's gonna get lots of love, which is great.
It's more than fair. You know what? I really like Kev Sinclair's books. Kev Sinclair is a British writer, and like if like it's like my kind of UK, where it's like it's actually like it's not nobility, it's not, you know, all of this highfalutin stuff. It's like it's a gritty series with realistic characters that like you could really connect to, and systems that are just plain damn fun. And Kev is just a great guy. And like there's parts in there where you're like it's so well grounded into the world, ours and also theirs, because of that I just like some like his books I very much enjoy. And then
just so that we can,
because
so I'm going to throw up the images. So do you want to call out, I think it's God of the Feast is one of them for Kev's, or do you want to call out the one that I read? I think it was called Cataclysm. And I thought that one was really good as well. Is it called Cataclysm? So I'll put up God of the Feast for Kevin, because Kevin's a great guy. Fantastic guy.
He's got some great series out there. So I'll go with those as my three. Because otherwise, like, my TBR and everything is absolutely nuts right now. But I would say, like, to authors and to readers, go check out Goodreads, because, like, especially if you're posting on there, hey, what's your like favorite series? That shares the love like a ton, because it is, you know, with indie communities, no one's gonna let you know about it unless you like go and search for it, right? Which is kind of awesome about like Facebook and Reddit, of like how many recommendation lists there are, and you're always like scanning through just like to find new reads, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, I'll throw that in. Yeah.
So because we're coming up on time, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the ones that will be discounted as part of the sale towards the end. But before you sort of end with that, what are you sort of writing right now, and then sort of what's your focus currently, and then what can we look forward to maybe in the future as well? Like, do you have any stories that are in your mind that are like next on the docket, or sort of what's your current workload looking like?
It's not too bad. I say my girlfriend thinks differently, but whatever. But no,
same with my wife. You're not alone, my friend. You're not alone.
They're like, what are you doing for like 6 hours? You're like, hallucinating, and then regurgitating it a little, and then people enjoy it, and they're like, you're insane. You're like, and I love it. But okay, so I'm working on Restarting the Apocalypse right now. Book 1 is out. We have the audio coming out very, very soon. That is going to be discounted. We will have book 2 coming out. I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
I think it's the 17th.
Yeah, I think it's the 17th. I think it's October now. I think it is. Yeah. So.
For October. Oh, sorry, for the audiobook.
Yeah.
I won't speak. Sorry, you go.
No. You're good. You're good. Again. So things I don't manage. But yeah. So we got book 2 is slated. So that's fun. That series is doing awesome. We're enjoying that a lot. It's a regression apocalyptic series, and it's set in the 1900s, which I think is really fun, because then it's like, hey, we can see technology advance in a lot of different ways instead of it being like straight fantasy and all that. So gunpowder is back on the menu. And then we've got 10 Realms. That's going to be discounted. It's about 2 buddies who get teleported to a fantasy world. It's got Western cultivation. I don't know. It was among one of the first Western cultivation ones, where it's like, I literally just like, it was so much fun to blend like all of the Asian influenced systems with the Western influenced systems, and just be like, how does this work? And slap it together, and you're like, really well. Like, it was surprising some of like the good connections it made. I was like, perfect. And then we have Emerelia, which is your classic, like classic in some ways. It's VR with a twist where Earth is a simulation and the video game is reality, and that just makes a lot of fun. That's very party based, and it's kind of that one's like a more like there's a lot more human parts going on there, I would say, because we've got two buddy cop situations with the other ones, and all of that. So yeah, those ones are going to be discounted, and we have more stuff coming up for those. Yeah, we also have just a lot of crazy stuff on the horizon, but that is something we'll talk about later.
Yeah, no, I feel as though we honestly could talk about a crap ton of stuff, but I will sort of end it there. I wanted to say, so LitRPG Con is coming up as well. I don't know if you will be at that. Will you be at that? Are you coming to any cons?
I will definitely be there. We have
Oh, there you go.
limited
See?
edition these. So this is actually 200 of 200. There is only 200 of these printed and ever will be. So if you want to find me, I'll be wearing a Restarting the Apocalypse t-shirt. And yeah, if you tell me the first book of mine that you ever read, you get one for free. And it has a Patreon membership. So you can get a free month of Patreon where you can read up on Restarting the Apocalypse and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I will also be at Dragon Con. Will you be at LitRPG Con and Dragon Con?
I won't be it either. Yeah, no, I have a 2-week-old newborn, and I don't know when this will go out, but the intention is really, like I said, I want people to be able to hear about your stuff. So yeah, talk about Dragon Con, and if you'll be at that, it'll definitely be out before Dragon Con. So please, yeah. But what are you doing at Dragon Con?
Yeah, so Dragon Con, I'll be attending. I haven't got anything. I've not told my schedule just yet. So I will be getting that schedule soon. If you're looking to find me or anything, just go over on Facebook or Patreon, or join our email list. We give updates on there on everything. The email list, you kind of get my like weekly rant of what the heck am I doing. Patreon, you get all the chapters and also a bunch of chaos ahead of everyone else. And then Facebook's like more general announcements and then community stuff. And we also have a Discord too, where we're talking about like video games and cool things that we've got in the back burner.
From August 22nd to 24th, I'll be running a massive LitRPG sale. That sale will include at least 200 free ebooks, all within the LitRPG and progression fantasy genre. I'd like to thank everyone for checking out the site, checking out the sale, sharing it where you can, and an especially big thank you to all the authors and publishers who have given me their blessing to host this site. I really do appreciate it. Come grab some free books.